I saw his text, "Meet me after hours, urgent." And a chill ran down my spine. Urgent for him always meant disastrous for me. What was it this time? Could this day possibly get any worse? The Los Angeles skyline shimmered outside my office window, a glittering facade hiding the grime and greed beneath. It was 2025, and everyone was hustling, chasing me? I was just trying to keep my head above water, drowning in paperwork and the endless demands of Mr. Thompson, my boss. He was the kind of guy who wore power suits and smiled with his teeth, but his eyes always felt cold, calculating. I'd been his executive assistant for 5 years. 5 years of fetching his coffee, scheduling his meetings, and smoothing over his eccentricities. I knew things I probably shouldn't. I had seen the late-night emails, the hushed phone calls, the hurried meetings in dimly lit restaurants. I'd always rationalized it, telling myself it was just part of the job. But lately, the pieces weren't fitting. He'd promised me a future at the company, hinted at promotions, whispered about opportunities. I'd been stupid enough to believe him. I'd worked my tail off, always going the extra mile, always loyal. What else was I supposed to do? The office was eerily quiet when I arrived after 7. The air conditioning hummed, a low, unsettling drone. His door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the hallway. I took a deep breath and knocked. "Come in," he said, his voice clipped. He was sitting behind his large desk, the city lights painting shadows across his face. He looked agitated. "Close the door," he instructed, not looking up. I obeyed, my stomach twisting. "I need you to do something for me," he began. "Something important." He handed me a thick file. "These documents need to be altered. Just a few minor adjustments. It's crucial." My heart pounded. "Altered? What kind of adjustments?" "What kind of adjustments?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Just make the numbers align," he said, his eyes flickering away. "It's a formality, really. Nothing to worry about." Nothing to worry about? My gut screamed otherwise. This felt wrong, so wrong. I don't know, Mr. Thompson. This doesn't feel right." He stood up, towering over me. "Don't question me," he said, his voice hardening. "Just do as I say. Your future with this company depends on it." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "And so does mine." I stared at the file in my hands, my mind racing. What would you do? Would you risk your career, your livelihood, to do what was right? Or would you blindly follow orders, hoping it would all just go away? I took the file. I spent the documents detailed several large transactions, transfers of money to offshore accounts. Mr. Thompson wanted me to make it look like the money had gone elsewhere, to legitimate investments. He was trying to hide something big. As I made the changes, painstakingly altering each document, I felt a growing sense of dread. I was an accomplice now. I was complicit. I sent him the altered files at 3 a.m. A simple text notification. Done. I didn't sleep a wink that night. The weight of what I had done pressed down on me, suffocating me. The neon city lights flashing over a deserted alley seemed to mock me. Lord Thompson was all smiles. He clapped me on the back, told me I was a valuable asset to the company. I wanted to vomit. For weeks things were normal. I went back to my routine, trying to bury the guilt, but it gnawed at me, a constant nagging feeling. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go horribly wrong. Then it happened. The auditors arrived. They descended on the office like vultures, scrutinizing every document, every transaction. Thompson remained calm, confident, but I saw the flicker of panic in his eyes. I tried to stay out of their way, to be invisible, but then one of the auditors approached me. "We need to speak with you," she said, her voice cold and professional, "about these documents." She held up one of the altered files. My blood ran cold. "These appear to have been modified," she said, her eyes boring into mine. "Do you have any explanation for this?" I stammered, trying to find the right words. I don't know what you're talking about," she raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because your name is all over these files. You were the last person to access them." I looked at Mr. He was watching me, his face unreadable. I was just following orders," I said, my voice trembling. "Mr. Thompson told me to make those changes." The auditor turned to Mr. "Is this true?" He paused for a moment, a long, agonizing moment. Then he shook his head. "Absolutely not," he said, his voice firm and unwavering. "She's lying. I never instructed her to alter any documents." My jaw dropped. He was throwing me under the bus. He was sacrificing me to save himself. "He's lying," I cried. "He told me to do it. I have proof." I scrambled for my phone, desperate to find the email where he'd given me the instructions, but it was gone, deleted. "She's clearly trying to deflect blame," Mr. Thompson said, his voice dripping with condescension. "She's been having performance issues lately. I think she's trying to sabotage the company." The auditors looked at each other, then back at me. I could see the doubt in their eyes. They believed him. "I think we're done here," the auditor said, turning back to me. "You're suspended, pending further investigation." Suspended? I was going to be fired. I was going to be ruined. As I walked out of the office, I looked back at Mr. He smirked. It was a cold, cruel, victorious smirk. I was alone, betrayed, scared. I went home and locked myself in my apartment. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying the events of the day in my head, trying to figure out how I'd gotten myself into this mess. That night, my phone buzzed. An anonymous message. "You won't get away with this." I jumped. Who was that? How did they know? My heart pounded in my chest. This was more than just a job now. This was personal. This was dangerous. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let Mr. Thompson get away with this. I couldn't let him ruin my life. I had to fight back. But how? I knew it was risky, but I had to get my hands on the original files, the ones that hadn't been altered. They were my only chance to prove my innocence. I snuck in through a side entrance, avoiding the security cameras. The office was still empty, the silence heavy with suspicion. I made my way to my old desk, my hands shaking. I knew Mr. Thompson would have changed the password to my computer, but I had a backup. A password I'd used for years, one he would never guess. I typed it in, my breath held. It worked. I quickly accessed the company server, searching for the original files, but they were gone. Just like the email. He had covered his tracks. I was about to give up when I noticed something odd. A hidden folder tucked away in an obscure directory. It was password protected. I tried every password I could think of, but nothing worked. Then I remembered something Mr. Thompson had said once. A casual remark about his childhood dog. I typed in the dog's name. Inside the folder, I found a treasure trove of information. Emails, documents, bank statements. Evidence of the embezzlement scheme. Evidence that Mr. Thompson was guilty. But there was something else. Something even more disturbing. Documents detailing payments to a shell corporation, a company linked to organized crime. Thompson wasn't just embezzling money. He was involved in something much bigger, much more dangerous. I quickly downloaded everything onto a flash drive, my heart pounding. I had to get out of there. As I turned to leave, I heard a noise. Footsteps. Someone was coming. I ducked under my desk, my breath held. The footsteps grew closer, then stopped right outside my cubicle. I peered through the crack between the desk and the floor. It was Mr. He was on his phone, talking in hushed tones. "She knows," he said. "I saw her in the office. She's got the files." My blood ran cold. He knew. He was on to me. "I'll take care of it," he said, his voice menacing. "She won't be a problem anymore." He hung up the phone and walked away. I waited until he was gone. Then I scrambled out from under the desk and ran. I ran as fast as I could, not stopping until I was out of the building. I was being followed. I could feel it. A prickling sensation on the back of my neck. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Every car that passed seemed to be watching me. I knew I couldn't go home. Thompson would be waiting for me. I had to find somewhere safe, somewhere he wouldn't expect me to be. I went to my sister's apartment. We hadn't spoken in months. There was tension between us since she got involved in that multi-level marketing scheme. But I had nowhere else to go. She opened the door, her face a mixture of surprise and annoyance. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice cold. "I need your help," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm in trouble." I told her everything, about Mr. Thompson, about the embezzlement scheme, about the anonymous threats. She listened in silence, her expression unchanging. When I was finished, she didn't say anything for a long time. Then she sighed. "I always knew he was a snake," she said, "but I never thought he'd do something like this." "Will you help me?" I asked, my voice pleading. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay," she said. "I'll help you, but you have to promise me something. You have to promise me that you'll be careful." I promised. My sister let me stay at her place. I felt bad to impose, but had few other places to go. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was putting her in danger. "We know where you are," I showed my sister. We stared at each other, panicked. Had she told someone? Could I trust her? Then I looked over at her computer screen. It was open to my email account. She had hacked into it. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I'm trying to protect you," she said, her eyes wide with innocence. "I need to know what's going on." "You're spying on me," I cried. "How can I trust you?" "You can't trust anyone," she said. "Not even me." She knew something she wasn't telling me. I felt betrayed again. I knew I had to go to the authorities, but I was afraid. Thompson had powerful connections. I didn't want to go to the police. How could I be sure he didn't know people there too? I decided to go to the press. I needed to expose Mr. Thompson's crimes, to let the world know what he had done. I contacted a journalist I knew, someone I trusted. I gave him the flash drive with the evidence, told him everything I knew. He promised to investigate, to get the story out. I waited anxiously for the story to break. But nothing happened. Days turned into weeks, and still nothing. I contacted the journalist again. He was evasive, vague. He said the story was being held up, that there were complications. I knew what that meant. Thompson had gotten to him. He had silenced him. I was running out of options. I was trapped. Then I got a call from my mother. We hadn't spoken in years. Another difficult relationship. "I know what's going on," she said, her voice surprisingly calm. "How?" I asked, stunned. "I've been following the news," she said, "and I know Mr. Thompson." My blood ran cold. She knew him. How? "He used to work for my father," she said. "A long time ago. He was involved in some shady dealings. My father helped him cover it up." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own grandfather? "He's a dangerous man," my mother said. "You need to be careful." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I don't want to see you get hurt," she said. "And because I have something that might help you." She told me about a hidden account my grandfather had set up, an account filled with money from his illicit dealings. Thompson had tried to access it, but he hadn't been able to. Only my mother knew the password. "I'm going to give you the password," she said. "Use the money to protect yourself. Get out of the country if you have to." I couldn't believe it. My mother, the woman who had always seemed so distant and cold, was offering to help me. I met her at a coffee shop, a cafe with free Wi-Fi and glass walls. She gave me the password, along with a warning. "Don't trust anyone," she said. "Not even me." I took the password and thanked her. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. She knew more than she was letting on. I accessed the account and found over $2 million. It was enough to disappear, to start a new life. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't run away. I had to clear my name. I had to expose Mr. Thompson's crimes. I decided to use the money to hire a lawyer, the best lawyer I could find. Someone who wouldn't be intimidated by Mr. Thompson's power or connections. I found her. A sharp, fearless woman who was known for taking on the most difficult cases. I told her everything, showed her the evidence. She listened intently, her eyes narrowed. "I'll take your case," she said, "but it's going to be dangerous. Thompson will stop at nothing to protect himself." I knew she was right, but I was ready to take the risk. My lawyer started her investigation, digging into Mr. Thompson's past, uncovering his web of lies and deceit. She found evidence of the embezzlement scheme, the payments to the Shell Corporation, the connections to organized crime. She also found evidence that Mr. Thompson had bribed the journalist to kill my story. The evidence was overwhelming. The authorities had no choice but to act. Thompson was arrested, along with several of his accomplices. He was charged with embezzlement, fraud, and racketeering. The story broke, and the world was shocked. Thompson, the respected businessman, the pillar of the community, was a criminal. I testified against him in court, telling my story, exposing his crimes. He tried to deny everything, to blame me for his actions, but the evidence was too strong. He was found guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I had won. I had cleared my name. I had exposed Mr. But it wasn't a victory. I had lost so much in the process. My career, my trust, my sense of security. And I had learned a harsh lesson about the nature of power, the depths of human depravity. I was offered my job back with an apology. I refused. I couldn't go back to that life, to that office, to those memories. I decided to start my own business, to use my skills and experience to help other people. I wanted to create a company where honesty and integrity were valued, where employees were treated with respect. It wasn't easy. I faced many challenges, many setbacks, but I persevered. I refused to give up. And eventually I succeeded. My company thrived. I built a team of talented, dedicated people who shared my values. I was no longer just following orders. I was leading the way. But even with my success, I couldn't forget what had happened. The betrayal, the fear, the loss. It would always be a part of me. I often wondered about Mr. Thompson, sitting in his jail cell, regretting his choices. Did he ever think about me? Did he ever feel remorse? I knew I should hate him. I knew I should want him to suffer, but I didn't. I felt pity. Pity for a man who had let greed and power consume him, who had destroyed his own life in the process. I realized that I had a choice. I could hold on to the anger and resentment, let it poison my heart, or I could forgive him. It took time, but eventually I was able to let go of the bitterness. I forgave him, not for his sake, but for my own. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant freeing myself from the prison of my own anger. I was free. So what would you have done? What decision would you have made? Would you have sought revenge or chosen forgiveness? Would you have done anything differently? These are the questions I still ask myself every day. My story might be over, but your story is just beginning. What choices will you make? How will you face the challenges that lie ahead? Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to leave a comment below. I want to know what you think. Write what you choose. What I haven't told you yet is the impact all this had on my family. My sister, after all the drama, I think she learned a valuable lesson about trust and about hacking into people's email accounts. But it was my mother who truly surprised me. After Thompson's trial, she started opening up, sharing stories about her life, about my grandfather, about things she'd kept hidden for decades. It was like a dam had broken. Turns out my grandfather's shady dealings were much deeper than I ever imagined. He wasn't just involved in a little tax evasion. He was connected to some truly dangerous people, people who would stop at nothing to protect their interests. That money she gave me the password to? It was dirty money, blood money, and she knew it. Why did she wait so long to tell me? Why did she let me go through all of that, knowing the risks? I confronted her, of course. We met again, this time in a park, a place filled with life and laughter, a stark contrast to the darkness that had consumed our lives. Why didn't you tell me everything? I asked, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. Why did you let me risk my life? She looked down, her eyes filled with regret. I was afraid, she said. Afraid of what you would think of me, of your grandfather. Afraid of what those people would do if they knew I was talking. But you put me in danger, I cried. You could have gotten me killed. I know, she said, her voice barely a whisper, and I'm so sorry. But I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I just gave you the money, you could disappear, start a new life. I didn't realize you would try to fight back. She reached out and took my hand. I'm so proud of you, she said. You're stronger than I ever was. You stood up to him. You exposed his crimes. You did what was right. Her words were comforting, but they didn't erase the pain. I still struggled to understand her motives, her secrets. Could I ever truly forgive her? Could I ever truly trust her? That question still haunts me. Anyway, after everything settled with Mr. Thompson, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Starting my own business was daunting, but also incredibly freeing. I leased a small office space in a co-working building downtown. It was a far cry from my plush corner office at Thompson's, but it was mine. The building was modern, all glass and steel, with charging stations everywhere and AR social media filters projected onto the walls. Every morning, I'd grab a coffee from the automated barista downstairs and head up to my office, ready to face the day. One day, I received a strange email. It was an encrypted message from an unknown sender. The subject line read, "He's not the only one." I hesitated before opening it. Was it another threat? A trap? I took a deep breath and clicked on the message. It contained a single line of text. Look into Stellar Tech. Stellar Tech? It was a major tech company, one of the biggest in Los Angeles. What did they have to do with anything? I spent days researching Stellar Tech, digging into their financials, their corporate structure, their history. I found nothing suspicious, nothing to connect them to Mr. Thompson or his crimes. I was about to give up when I stumbled upon a hidden connection. Stellar Tech had invested heavily in a blockchain app developed by a small, obscure company. That company was owned by Mr. Thompson's brother-in-law,